Hello guys, how's it going? Today we're going to start the narration of from the book. The book has been officially out, and I'm so glad you can join me. I will start with some narration, and then we're gonna do some commentary when the time arises. So I hope you enjoy this narration, and if you do like this content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. From the book, don't think too highly of yourself, but trust your instincts. Move in the world, but make sure your footprints are yours. The wise man keeps one eye on the road and one eye on the ground. For the road is long, and the stepping stones aren't always around. Take advice, then see it in your heart that it is your own. The heart is a mirror, a compass, and a throne. Polished and maintained, it might guide you towards the light, even when embraced by the darkest shadows and the veil of night. Chapter 1: The Journey. The Moral Compass. There was a child who grew in a land of pastures and sand. The child grew to learn from those around him, and often wandered about distant lands, questioning what lay beyond the sand stretching into the distance. His father imparted lessons to him, but the boy was almost always wondering about other things. Some lessons he remembered, not because he wanted to, but because his father always caught him and made him pay attention. On the other hand, through his mother's soft-spoken words and gentle smile, he learned different lessons from those his father had imparted on him. One day, as he was accompanying his mother to the market, he noticed a man who was limping. The boy, being very young, found it funny and started giggling. The mother's expression suddenly changed, and she landed a well-placed blow on his head. She said that if the boy were in the man's shoes, he wouldn't laugh so much, and that he too could one day struggle to walk. One afternoon, the father asked the boy to accompany him as he had something he needed help with. Both arrived at a forge, and the father asked the boy to help him forge a sword. It was a cloudy day, and a storm was brewing in the distance. The boy watched as the father worked in silence. The boy was astonished by his father's skills, for he had never seen his father silent without trying to impart knowledge on him. He had always known his father as a merchant, not as a sword maker. This fact also fascinated the boy and showed him how little he knew about his father. The father took his son aside and sat down, pointing at the sword, said, "Trust this." Then he pointed at the hand and said, "Trust this more." Then he pointed at his body and said, "Trust this even more." Then he touched his forehead with his finger and said, "Trust this." Then he touched his chest with his palm and said, "Listen." He finally pointed at the sky and said, "Trust him beyond anything I pointed at before." The boy could not understand what the father meant. He was just happy to see his father in a calm and tranquil state. The rain had started to fall as they made their way back to their house. As soon as they arrived, the mother saw them and let them know that dinner was ready. His little sister came running towards them, jumping into his father's arms, then running back, holding both their hands. Time shifts and seasons bring change, just as the winds change the shape of dunes in the desert. The boy, now grown, knew the lands and absorbed its culture and customs, isolated in time from the outer modern world, which had not yet reached these borderlands. One day, he walked back to his house, and to his surprise, no one was there. No traces of his family. His father's belongings were intact, and his mother's clothes were still there. His sister's sandals were still by the door. It seemed the only thing that was missing was them. The young man waited for days and went asking neighbors if they knew what had happened, but no one had seen his family. He didn't know how to react to all of this. He felt helpless. Weeks passed, and the boy realized his family might not be back. Their sudden disappearance made him anxious. He often sat at the edge of the hill, as he used to when he was younger, wondering what might have happened to them, and whether he should stray or try to find them. He decided that he would no longer wait. In his mind, it was all out of the ordinary, almost like a dream. He realized that the only way to find out was to act rather than wait for something to happen. The young man packed a few of his belongings and set out, remembering his father's words as he looked up to the sky. Something inside of him made him want to avoid the main roads. His intuition was strong, but he didn't know why he had this gut feeling. He trusted it to guide him, but intuition alone could not prepare him for what was to come. So far, the traveler had been wandering for days. He stopped along the small towns when he had to grab supplies. The little money he had was not enough to afford him a sleeping spot. Oddly enough, he had been at this same marketplace during one of his earlier stops. The traveler bought some snacks and water and was about to leave when he heard two men talking about desert navigation and how the winds caused the dunes to change shape. This new information made him realize he had been going around in circles. This realization led him to think of a solution. He bought a pen and a notebook and began sketching the shape of dunes he saw. He also started marking the rocks he had passed, serving as a clear indication that he had been through this path before. He bought a compass, allowing him to choose a direction, but he had no specific destination in mind. The wandering traveler was being guided, but didn't understand why. The traveler began to move differently. He used to move in the morning when there was light and it was easy to see. He later realized that the opposite was actually better. At night, visibility is low, but the traveler had the stars to guide him. He concluded that it is sometimes best to move when the world is asleep and the weather is cooler. One night, the traveler heard the sound of a horse in the distance. He stopped and paid attention, holding his breath and focusing on the noise. He heard it again. He looked and saw that there was, in fact, a horse approaching with a man riding it. The traveler hesitated but decided to show himself and greeted the approaching horseman. The horseman greeted him back with a smile. The rider stepped down and approached the traveler. The man asked the traveler why he had been roaming these lands for days. The rider explained that this part of the desert belonged to him. The rider continued, saying that the brave souls roaming here were bandits and smugglers, and that neither bandits nor smugglers traveled alone. Yet he had seen lone wanderers and outlaws before. He asked the traveler if he needed help finding his way back home. The traveler told the man he did not know where he was going, nor could he go back home. The man looked at the traveler and pointed out that travelers always knew where they were going. The man took out some water and handed it to the traveler. He then asked him if he could join him by the bonfire. So, yeah, the book is to be taken with some insight that it is entirely written as a metaphor, and that's something very important you need to know going in. And a lot of the stories you hear actually happen, maybe not happened to me, but actually did, but a lot of them didn't as well. And it's up for the reader to decide which is which. So that was the first session. I hope you enjoyed it. And we're at page 4 now. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching. If you like this content, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.